want to build a nation, if you want to build a democracy, let us use the laid down procedures. I am not speaking to shield anybody. The laws are clear that if anybody is found guilty of committing any crime, there are laid down procedures to deal with such matters. We don't use a Rambo style action to go to somebody's house. I have just a caution. I have a message for the president. President Mahama should listen to me. Mr. President, Ghanaians voted for you massively so that you come and unite this country.
Thank you.
They did not vote for you to come and divide this country.
Thank you.
If he want to leave a legacy long after he has leave his office, then I am begging him that he should use the laid down procedure to address some of these matters.
Thank you, honorable member.
And stop the buga buga.
Thank you so much.
To help this country. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Let me come to Boy.
I'm very grateful for this opportunity. Mr. Speaker, I am one of those who believe that what is wrong yesterday is also wrong today. What I've read is that the OSP has said that the raiding that we are all talking about is something that was staged. I listened to him. And so for me, for us to use this precious time discussing something that has been staged, then I think that we need to have a second look at what we are doing. Mr. Speaker, I listened to my senior brother, the former Minister for Defense, and I was a bit sad. I followed you and the former Minister for Interior, and my good friend and brother, the former Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, and also Honorable Kandapa. The four of you, I follow you from outside here on that fateful day, and I dove my cap for Honorable Kandapa when he shouted, "Don't let them enter, don't let them enter, don't let them enter." You shouted, "Let them enter, let them enter, let them enter." And they entered. Mr. Speaker, he's now telling.
Mr. Speaker, first of all, I want him to know, and he knows me very well, that where I come from, I'm not a coward. I can never be a coward. He knows that where I come from, I can't be a coward. I will never be a coward. Otherwise, I cannot go home. And Mr. Speaker, I want to repeat that I am not a coward. I can never be a coward, otherwise I cannot go home. He knows where I come from. And let me tell you, you have no evidence.
Thank you.
Not a single shred of evidence. And I want him to withdraw that statement because it's a direct attack on my person, on my family, my tribe, where I come from, and you are putting people in danger for no reason. If you don't have any evidence, withdraw it. It's very unfortunate that you will make a statement against Ambrose. He's not here to defend himself. Make a statement against me, and I can defend myself. It's wrong. You have no evidence. You heard it. You heard it. It's very unfortunate. Do you even know when the soldiers came? Do you know where I was?
Honorable members.
When the soldiers came in, do you even know where I was that day? Do you know where I was?
Honorable members.
If you are using soldiers to intimidate Ghanaians, including myself.
Honorable.
If you are using soldiers to intimidate Ghanaians, including myself, chasing my car, that is not democracy. That is not democracy. You use soldiers to chase me. That is not democracy. That is not democracy. Don't accuse me. You have no evidence. Withdraw it.
Well, honorable members, I will see the seat to the first deputy speaker. Meanwhile, you may continue. Honorable member, you may go on. Honorable Yusuf, you may go on.
Mr. Speaker, I started by saying that the defense minister is my brother. And indeed, I know where he's coming from. Where he's coming from, that is where I'm coming from. We are brothers. We are the same people. And so I was shocked that day when he was the one ushering in the military men to come and kill his own brothers. Mr. Speaker, he's saying that there was no democracy at that time, and that there was no government in place, and that he wasn't the minister at that time. And so whatever happened, he wasn't bothered. This is what he just said. Mr. Speaker, the very people who did that are still in the system. I want to call on you. On this day, we have their pictures to order an investigation so that we will get to the bottom of this issue. But I am a Muslim and a serious and pious Muslim. And the last thing I will do is to tell lies on my own brother. I have said what we call the kalima. I believe in Allah. I believe in his prophets. And the next thing to believe in is to ensure that I don't tell lies on respected people like my brother. I'm only putting it on record that on that day, I followed you. My brother, Honorable Abu Jinapo, Honorable Ambrusderi, and Honorable Kandapa, from the start here down up to this point, when Honorable Kandapa insisted, don't let them enter, don't let them enter, don't let them enter, and you said they should enter. Indeed, they entered. You followed them. Mr. Speaker, what I want you to do is to call for the video. Call for the video. He wants me to come with evidence. Call for the video. And you will see him ushering in the military men. On this note, Mr. Speaker, I am calling for an independent investigation to ensure that whatever happened that day, we get the truth of it. And once we get the truth of it, he will cease to call on evidence. Thank you.
But Mr. Speaker, somebody has accused me.
Yes, honorable member.
Somebody has accused me that I brought soldiers to come and kill.
You don't have the floor. Resume your seat. Please resume your seat. Honorable Nitiwul, resume your seat. Honorable member, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker.
Honorable member, hold it.
Mr. Speaker.
Honorable members, let's remind ourselves about Order 129 and conduct business in an orderly manner. I will not hesitate to apply the rules. Honorable member, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I mean, members in this house who have followed my
proceedings or my actions in the media will certainly know that I was one of the few MPs who stood up and said that Ken Ofori-Atta must go. And so I'm not here to defend Ken Ofori-Atta. But Mr. Speaker, we need to ensure that as a country, the rule of law always reigns supreme. I am a bit surprised that the members in the NDC are today defending actions that yesterday they were crying over. In fact, I heard my good friend John Jinapo, I also heard Kwame Agoja make claims that in 2017 their houses were raided at Daklu and all of that. Is that justification why we should allow same to be repeated this time? The Speaker, when
Honorable members,
when
I said order.
When His Excellency John Dramani Mahama was campaigning, he said he was going to reset Ghana. Is that the reset we are seeing today? Is this the reset we are seeing today? That lawlessness is taking supreme over everything that we do in this country? That today Richard Jakpa can walk into the houses of Ken Ofori-Atta and raid the house and be picking documents when he has no warrant. Mr. Speaker, today the OSP, we all heard him, and the OSP declared Ken Ofori-Atta as a fugitive. Mr. Speaker, I'm wondering the legal basis for the OSP to declare Ken Ofori-Atta as a fugitive. Mr. Speaker, a fugitive is someone who has escaped from custody or is evading a lawful arrest warrant. What warrant does the OSP has? That today the OSP will be saying that Ken Ofori-Atta has escaped from this country. We all know that the finance minister, one of the reasons why he had to quit his job was that he was not feeling well. And so if the man travels out of this country for medical reasons, and knowing very well, when there has been enough communication between the OSP and Ken Ofori-Atta, and you take this press conference just to embarrass the man, I am sharply the OSP, and declare the man as a fugitive. That is what John Jinapo said. Leader, you said nothing about it. John Jinapo said the man has been declared as a fugitive. And you know the definition of a fugitive. As Ken Ofori-Atta.
Honourable Member, I recognize the Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, we need to be cautious. The Honourable Member who just spoke said the OSP organized a press conference to embarrass the former finance minister. Mr. Speaker, this House should not interfere in the work of the OSP. We should not intimidate the OSP. And secondly, Mr. Speaker, the former defense minister said soldiers were sent to the residence of the former finance minister. Mr. Speaker, nobody has tendered evidence in this chamber that soldiers were sent. Mr. Speaker, they are talking about one Mr. Jakpa. The man is not a soldier. The man is retired. He left the army. And he is an officer, I believe, of national security of the state. So please, let's not sit here and say things that would dent the image of the men and officers of the Ghana Armed Forces in uniform. So let's be careful. Let's be careful when we say that soldiers were sent, because no soldier was sent to the residence of the defense minister. Mr. Speaker, please, let's be cautious.
Honourable Minority Leader, I recognize Honourable Majority Leader on a point of order. Are you also on a point of order against the point of order?
Mr. Speaker, with the greatest respect,
with the greatest respect, take it easy. He didn't say he was up on a point of order. Mr. Speaker, he didn't say so. He didn't say so. And please, he made an intervention for the good of us. I am back on the same level, please. Mr. Speaker, I agree with the Honorable Leader of the House that we should tread cautiously. Rightly so. But, Mr. Speaker, we have heard a colleague make a statement for Hansard that the respected senior member sent soldiers here to kill us. Those were the words. Mr. Speaker, in the same spirit, we need to be careful. Two, I have publicly acknowledged the diplomacy of the majority leader, and I have no reason to doubt him. But I always act in good faith. I shared with him, although private, but I will tender it since it has been raised. Videos of soldiers in uniform raiding the residence of Mr. Ken Ofori-Atta. Mr. Speaker, indeed, he is right in saying that the man being spoken about as the one leading the team is now a civilian. That is true. Mr. Richard Jakwa, who works with national security, and indeed the one who led the soldiers, is a state security operative. But, Mr. Speaker, the point is very clear.
Are you very sure that it's a state security operative?
Mr. Speaker, he says so. It's not coming from me. He confirmed. These are the words of the majority leader. It's not mine. This is Japan. That is what, So, Mr. Speaker, yes, he has confirmed. He says he is a state security operative. It's not coming from me. Mr. Speaker, I have shared the videos with him, and I was fair in my dealings with him by saying that this is a matter that I want to raise. So, Mr. Speaker, let us be guided by what he has just told us and allow our colleague to proceed. I have gotten a signal from my respected colleague who has just been nominated as a deputy minister that he wants to withdraw that aspect of the submit. Oh, he says so, please. It's not, Mr. Speaker, I will not impose anything on him. He signaled that in view of the caution from the leader, he wants to withdraw. If he wants to, that is his matter. I am only telling Mr. Speaker, that's the signal he's giving me. Mr. Speaker, let's be fair with each other. This democracy that you are celebrating today.
Honorable Minority Leader, conclude.
Mr. Speaker, I'm concluding. Mr. Speaker, once upon a time, we had 169 seats in this house. You have made it, enjoy it, but let us be mindful. Let us be mindful that we are a family. I told us once some weeks ago that let us learn from the Jinapo brothers. I rest my case.
Thank you, Honorable Member, Honorable Sule.
Oh,
I'll give you the floor. Honorable Nyindam, resume your seat. Honorable Sule, you have the floor.
Speaker, I'm grateful for this opportunity to withdraw the words he brought in military to kill his brothers. My understanding of the role of the military is that they are trained to kill. That's where I was coming
Honorable
from.
Suleiman.
So I withdraw.
Honorable Suleiman, are you withdrawing?
So I'm withdrawing.
Are you withdrawing? Or what are you doing?
Unreservedly. He's my brother, and I will not do anything to hurt him. So I withdraw them. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable members, statement accordingly withdrawn. Order. Honorable member, conclude. You have 2 more minutes.
thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker,
Honorable Chiwete, can we have some order?
Mr. Speaker, see how pleasant it is that as brothers, we are able to understand each other. That should be the spirit that we carry on in the administration of government. Mr. Speaker, we all have a right. And Chapter 5 of the Constitution guarantees our right as citizens. In fact, Mr. Speaker, if you look at Article 14 of our Constitution, it is very clear. It is very clear that no person shall be deprived of their liberty except in accordance with the rule of law. Mr. Speaker, the rate and the style, the Rambo style at which they invaded Kenuforiata's house. This morning, my little daughter came to me and she was asking me, Daddy, is Ghana at war? Then I asked her, why? Mommy, why? Why? What is happening? Then she was like, Daddy, get on social media.
Honorable member,
look at how military
I am not supposed to be interrupting you. You quoted a constitutional provision that we need to act in accordance with the law. Are we going to be able to establish whether they have acted in accordance with law or not? Is this House going to establish whether they have acted in accordance with law or not, having regard to the fact that justice emanates from the people of Ghana and it is exercised on their behalf by the judiciary?
Mr. Speaker, it is very clear. It is very clear that from all the statements we have read from the OSP, there's no warrant. People invaded the houses of Kenuforiata. Today, even the OSP that we all thought that led that attack is even running away from the fact that he led those attacks to Kenuforiata's house. Mr. Speaker, today we have a former military person who has been caught on video, clear video, invading the house of Kenuforiata. Mr. Speaker, that should not happen. I'm saying that.
Honorable member, did I hear you say he's running away from the facts? He made a categorical statement that the people are imposters.
Who made that statement?
And he didn't authorize them.
Well,
and so, you said he's running away from that particular fact, as if he authorized them and now running away from them.
Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, I appreciate your guidance. I appreciate your guidance. But Mr. Speaker, we are all in the media space. We know what is happening. We know what people are saying. I am saying that this morning, newspapers carried that the OSP, in fact, the Herald newspaper carried that the OSP is the one that undertook this exercise. In his press conference, it denies that fact. It denies that fact. All I'm telling my colleagues is that we live in a country where a president has been given over 56% of votes. He promised, now I'm coming, sit down, Kwame, sit down. It doesn't matter. Give him 100%. He promised Ghanaians that he's going to reset the entire system. But Mr. Speaker, today what we see in administration, in the administration of the NDC, it's more like a coup d'etat had happened in Ghana.
Honourable member, conclude.
Being raided, and all of that. Mr.
Honourable
Speaker,
member, conclude.
Letters are being issued sacking civil servants in our country. Something we have not seen before. Even directors of companies are being sacked. Mr. Speaker, directors of companies are being sacked.
Honourable member, your time is up.
Mr. Speaker,
I proceed to give the floor to Honourable James Agalga.
Mr. Speaker, in conclusion.
Honourable member, resume your seat, please.
4 minutes. Mr. Speaker,
please resume your seat.
You took all
Honourable
my time.
James Agalga, you have the floor.
Mr. Speaker, the statement made by the Deputy Minority Whip was made in the realm of the purported violation of the rights of the former finance minister. If my understanding of that statement serves me right, Mr. Speaker, then of course we have reason to ask ourselves which of the human rights provisions enshrined in Chapter 5 of the 1992 Constitution has been violated? That is the question. The maker of the statement cited a judicial decision in support of the statement. Now, that particular judicial decision, I didn't hear him well, but he mentioned Director of Prisons. That particular judicial decision relates to fair trial principles. But, Mr. Speaker, in the case of the Minister for Finance, he is not on trial. And so the principles enshrined in Article 19 of the Constitution will not apply to him for now. The closest we can come to, Mr. Speaker, in terms of the human rights provisions in our Constitution, would be Article 15 of our Constitution. And Mr. Speaker, I will take you through Article 15. And I expect, with the greatest of respect, the minority leader to respect the fact that I am truly a human rights advocate, and he can bear testament to that fact. So let him not interrupt me when I am advancing my arguments.
Honourable member, you are not interrupted in any manner. Address the chair.
Article 15 of our Constitution talks about the respect for human dignity. And this is what it says. The dignity of all persons shall be inviolable. 2, no person shall, whether or not he is arrested, restricted, or detained, be subjected to A, torture, or other cruel, inhuman, or degrading treatment or punishment. B, any other condition that detracts or is likely to detract from his dignity and worth as a human being. It goes on and on and on, but those are the relevant provisions I want to relate to. Mr. Speaker, the question is, Honorable Ken Ofori-Atta has not been arrested. He's not in the custody of the police. So how do we start talking about a violation of his right to human dignity? The steps that have so far been taken by the special prosecutor.
Honorable Stephen Amwa, let's listen to him in silence.
Mr. Speaker, the steps that have so far been taken by the special prosecutor is in accordance with law as prescribed under Article 18 of our Constitution. That same Article 18, Mr. Speaker, talks about the right to property and the fact that it shouldn't be interfered with, your property rights, your home, etc., etc. But Article 18 comes with an exception, where the state security apparatus decides to act in prevention of crime or in detection and punishment for crime, an exception is created under Article 18. So the question we should be asking ourselves is, even granted, assuming without admitting, that security agents stormed the house of Ken Ofori-Atta, we should be asking ourselves, did they obtain a warrant from court? Did they obtain a warrant from court? I think our colleagues on the other side should file an agent question and determine for themselves whether they acted with a warrant or without a warrant before they draw certain conclusions. Now, Mr. Speaker, the special prosecutor has spoken. He says he extended an invitation to Ken Ofori-Atta, and his lawyers offered to present themselves for questioning. And he said, no, lawyers are not the subject of the investigation. So he wants to talk to Ken Ofori-Atta himself. Could this be the reason why agents of our state security apparatus stormed his home? Mr. Speaker, let me remark that when Honorable John Jinapur's home was stormed, there was no prior invitation extended to him by any state security agency mandated to investigate any matter. Likewise, the home of Dominic Ayeni, the current Attorney General, was stormed, equally stormed. What was his crime? His crime was that he only wrote a legal opinion. A legal opinion. A legal opinion warranted the storming of his home without a prior invitation from the police. These are the facts we should compare and contrast. And so, having said that, I did indicate that I, as a lawyer, a human rights advocate,
Honourable Member, conclude.
who was struggling to establish for myself which of the provisions of our Constitution have been violated, I found none. Kenoforiata can submit himself to the law for purposes of investigation, and when there are violations, I'll be the first to speak for and on his behalf. Not until then. He should be law-abiding, come back home, and engage with the special prosecutor so that the allegations that have been leveled against him can be dealt with. Thank you for the opportunity, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much. Your time is up. Honorable Stephen Amwa. Honorable Stephen Amwa, before you start, let me remind the entire House that we are operating within the ambit of Standing Order 93.5. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to make it emphatically clear that Ken Ofori-Atta hasn't run away. Mr. Speaker, I would like to advise this August House that I think our actions and omissions over the years have actually defined us, and we have given the public, the external stakeholders, to always see us in different lenses. And it is time we put an end to what we are doing to each other. Mr. Speaker, some of the descriptions they're giving, some even went to the extent of saying that the economy that he left, in fact, I cannot repeat those evil words they use in-house. Mr. Speaker, 2016, the economic Ken Ofori-Atta inherited was growing at 3.4%. Mr. Speaker, the inflationary rate was 15.4. Mr. Speaker, lending rate was about 40%. But for COVID, by 2019, we were growing 7%. Inflation was 7%. Under Ofori-Atta, we have been able to implement one of the most enviable pro-poor policies on the continent of Africa. How could you describe such a man because of global crisis? Your own former finance minister, do you know the description you are giving to your country? Do you know how you are placing Ghana on the globe because of politics? Do you know what you are doing to your country? Very soon, your ministers will be leaving Ghana for other places, for international assignments. And this is what they will read from your own lips. Mr. Speaker, we shouldn't allow this outmoded, colloquial, primitive politics to continue to destroy our country. Mr. Speaker, we are one people with one destiny as a nation. Mr. Speaker, I am only advising the House.
Honorable Stephen Amwa, did I hear you say primitive politics?
No, I'm talking about Ghana.
Will you consider withdrawing the word primitive politics?
Okay. Mr. Speaker, with your indulgence, I have done so. But Mr. Speaker, I think I have to make myself clearer here. I am not even speaking against one side. I am talking about actions and inactions, omissions and behaviors that are dwindling the very reputation of this House. We've been doing this to ourselves for far too long. Now, every Tom, Dick, and Harry out there, even if you are driving Land Cruiser, they think you're a politician. Whether NDC MPP, they don't respect us. And this is why I'm bringing it to our attention.
That do we allow yesterday's propaganda or actions or omissions to continue to keep on destroying the very image and reputation of this August House? Is that what we want to do? This is the question I'm asking. Mr. Speaker, are we teaching the younger generation what we are doing today? Mr. Speaker, what does the Constitution say? Article 18, Clause 2. With your permission. A. No one shall be subjected to the interference of his private home and properties. Has that happened or not? The very Constitution that we ourselves, the very laws that we ourselves made, we are undermining the same laws because of politics. We should not sit here and because of politics forget the fact that the same kind of rata made your family members have free school. Your nephews, your children, your aunties, your friends, your mosque members, your church members. But for Kanofrata, they would have been home. Let us stop these things against either NDC or MPP. Let us maintain our reputations as a house. Let us believe in one fact that we are one people with a common destiny as a country. All these things we must stop. That is what I mean. Yesterday's politics we should forget. Because we are destroying each other. And we call ourselves honorable members. We all deserve that. But please, Mr. Speaker, what I'm trying to tell the House is that sometimes, because of politics, we say these things, we think we are joking. But those out there, they believe in what we say and they disrespect all of us. Let us protect each other. Let us keep the dignity of this house intact and portray to the people out there that, yes, we have changed. Mr. Speaker, I am ending by telling each and everyone, especially my brothers and sisters from the other side, to repent. To repent. These behaviors must be stopped. We don't do that to ourselves. Look at Honorable Agoja, very respectable. Our leader, respectable. We are all respectable members. But because of politics, as you call you thief, you are this, you are that. And when you go out there, you want people to respect us. I think this should be the last time for all of us. Let us show love and constructive discussions. Constructive conflict. Conflict C-type, not A-type.
All member conclude.
Mr. Speaker, in conclusion, I would like to re-emphasize the point that Ken Oforiatta, until proven guilty by court of competent jurisdiction, cannot be described and defined as somebody who is criminal. Thank you very much.
I proceed to give the floor to Kwame Jijoli Gakpe.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me the opportunity. Mr. Speaker, the Honorable Ken Oforiatta is not above the law. He is not above the law. And then when the special prosecutor, they read the statement today, he is talking about the cathedral. They mentioned cathedral issue. They mentioned SML issues. Those are the issues the special prosecutor is investigating. When they call upon Honorable Ken Oforiatta to avail himself to the authorities to do the needful, he sent lawyers. And the lawyers they want to represent him. Where is Ken Oforiatta? He's outside this country. We call upon our former finance minister to do the needful and come back to Ghana and do the needful. This is about public money. It's not personal money. He's not above the law. The security agencies went to the house lawfully. What we should be looking at is that we should inquire as a house whether they have search warrant to go to Honorable Ken Oforiatta's home. It's not about wearing white dresses. So nobody is above the law. When you hold public office, you need to be what? Accountable. The day of accountability have arrived. We were in this country. John Jinapo's home was raided. Former Attorney General's home was raided by the military people.
members were invaded in this chamber. At that time, we don't have the locus to say and condemn it. Today we have the moral temerity, the audacity to say that it is wrong. You have the moral ground to talk. You didn't know the day of reckoning will come today. Here we are. Now, karma. This is what we call karma. Karma is real. Those days where even members of parliament are being chased, they prevented. They can't even do the due duties. Here we are. So all that I want to say is that Ken Ofori-Atta is not above the law. He should submit himself. He should stop running away. He's out of the country. Please, please, please call upon him to come back to the country. He shouldn't run behind excuse of medical condition and he will not come. He is fit for purpose, and then we are waiting cautiously, we are waiting patiently for Honorable Ken Ofori-Atta to arrive in this country to submit himself to the authority for the needful to do. Why? What are you running away from? What are you running away from? Cathedral, 58 million Ghana cedis was sunk. Dollars, $28 million. $58 million. Which can build Kosimiti, can build a lot of roads. He can build Kosimiti. Is it not true? OPK, is it not true? He can build hospitals. He can build markets. He can do a lot of roads. The agenda 111 buildings would have finished.
Honorable Gakwe, conclude.
And what are we talking about?
Honorable Gakwe, conclude.
What the SML? Is it not true? Is it not true? Yes. The biggest hole ever Ghana have actually constructed. So nobody is chasing former minister for him. He is supposed to submit himself, and he is not above the law. Mr. Speaker, on this juncture, he swore an oath to protect the public purse, and now the day of accountability is here. So he should just commit himself. Thank you very much for giving me an opportunity.
Now, leadership of the House.
Mr. Speaker, thank you for the opportunity to make my comments on this matter. Mr. Speaker, Honorable Ken Ofori-Atta, a former Minister of Finance and a former presidential envoy, has contributed to nation building. Mr. Speaker, in 2021, when His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo nominated Finance Ministry portfolio, this House had to wait because he indicated he was unwell and seeking for medical treatment outside. Mr. Speaker, in fact, when he even came, he was the only minister that his vetting took 2 days. And in between, this House indulged him to enable him take some break, to enable him proceed with his vetting. Eventually, he left government as a cabinet minister. And, Mr. Speaker, for the records, on the 2nd of January 2025, he wrote to the then Chief of Staff that he needed to travel to Mayo Clinic in Minnesota, USA, for some medical procedure. Mr. Speaker, after President Mahama had taken office, he again wrote to the current Chief of Staff in a letter dated the 22nd of January 2025 indicating that he would again be absent from Ghana for the same purpose. Mr. Speaker, in fact, in the said letter to the Chief of Staff, he attached a letter from the hospital that he was seeking treatment. Mr. Speaker, indeed, the OSP wrote to him on the 24th of January. In fact, this is the first letter that he received from the OSP. Mr. Speaker, in the said letter, Mr. Kenuforiata instructed his lawyers to respond to let the OSP know that indeed he was out of the jurisdiction seeking medical treatment. Mr. Speaker, what happened yesterday by state security operatives must be condemned by all of us. Honorable John Jinapor has narrated his own ordeal, but the records of this House will confirm that when that happened, Right Honorable Speaker Okwe condemned that act. If indeed something had happened yesterday, it does not mean that we should continue today. Mr. Speaker, I have heard human rights activists, respected lawyers for that matter, quote Article 18 of the Constitution to say that that is not applicable in this case. Mr. Speaker, I beg to submit that that was a wrong appreciation of the law. Military men led by Mr. Richard Jakpa unlawfully entered the premises of Mr. Kenuforiata, searched his rooms.
Honorable Minority Leader, the unlawful entry is by your own determination.
Mr. Speaker, you know that by virtue of where we sit, we are able to do some background check before we come here. I wouldn't want to mention names, but Mr. Speaker, when inquiry was made, Mr. Speaker, when inquiry was made, it was obvious, and I stated for emphasis that those officials from the state did not have any warrant. Mr. Speaker, we should not encourage such an approach. We should not. Our democracy is still young. Today, it is Kenuforiata. Tomorrow, it will be another person. Some of our colleagues should not forget that only yesterday, it took the intervention of certain prominent members of our side to ensure that they were not mistreated. We will not mention names. They know. So these should be the voices of reason on this occasion. Some members worked in the night to ensure that people, members of the political class who are members of this House, were not mistreated. Mr. Speaker, let me remind colleagues, today, if you are praising the OSP, let's not forget that not too long ago, we had some of our members at the receiving end by the OSP. Don't let us also forget that even the president himself became a subject matter of OSP investigation. And he was not happy with certain words used by the OSP against him. So don't let us celebrate. Don't let us celebrate because today it is Kenuforiata. Mr. Speaker, all manner of things are being said that Ken has done this, has done that, has done that. I listened to my colleague from Keta, and I listened to my respected colleague from Bogatanga Central, enumerating what to him amount to offenses. And they also argued again that the man has not been tried, therefore there cannot be any human rights abuse.
Mr. Speaker, if you invade somebody's home and raid his home, Article 18 of the Constitution protect that person, except when you are doing so lawfully. On this occasion, there was no such law. There was no such law supporting their actions. So they shouldn't be here happy with it. These 4 years will soon come. No, Mr. Speaker,
Honorable member, I think the honorable member's order, that response was in respect of the allegation of breach of natural justice. And you and I are very much aware that natural justice is in two main ways: the Odi Atram pattern and Nemo Judas in Council. But actually not in respect of the Constitution. The statement states there was a breach of natural justice.
Mr. Speaker, the contention here is that the man's home was raided by state security operatives, rather unlawfully. And I dare contend that that conduct was unconstitutional. That is my respectful submission, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I have done a lot of follow-ups on this matter, and I regret to say that we are not sending the right signal to our electorate. Mr. Speaker, the man has put the state on notice of his absence from the jurisdiction. He has made available his medical records coming from a respected medical facility. Mr. Speaker, today, I repeat, if our friends think that it is another person, so it is okay, and they are describing Kenoforiata in all manner of forms, let me remind them that none can ever rule this country with perfection. The man, Mr. Speaker, at the risk of being repetitive, Honorable Stephen Amwa was clear in his language of submission that indeed the successful implementation of the free SHS was led by Kenoforiata as a finance minister. He made sure that he rolled out all important policy of government. Mr. Speaker, if you have any issue, follow due process of law. It is not enough for national security to raid his home. It is not enough to carry armed military men to his residence to terrorize his children and by extension his neighbors. Mr. Speaker, we must, as a house, be united with one voice to condemn this act. Today is Kenoforiata. Next will be other appointees. Mr. Speaker, we must not allow this. Mr. Speaker, only yesterday, we saw the Attorney General applying to the court with an application we call noli prosequi in law, simply saying that he's discontinuing certain cases. That is within his right as an Attorney General. Mr. Speaker, what signal are we sending to the nation that, oh, if it is NDC and NDC is in power, it is right. If it is MPP and if it's MPP in power, it is right. Mr. Speaker, the political class of this country must rise above this. The political class of this country must rise above this. And I would conclude by saying that if indeed...
Hold it. Honorable member, will you, no, I mean you are looking back. It is you I'm talking to. You are looking back. It is you I'm talking to. Will you listen to the leader in silence? Why? Leader, continue.
Mr. Speaker, Honorable Member for Keta talked about karma. And I agree with him. I've been reading a lot about karma. The wheels of karma indeed grind slowly, but with great surety. You have quoted it today. Enjoy it whilst it lasts. Mr. Speaker, today he says that we are reaping the fruits of a karmic effect of our actions. So it should be so. You have just come into government. You have a lot of projects you want to undertake. You'll be going to PPA. Ministers will be taking decisions. Some will be good, some will be bad. You roll out policies for Ghanaians to benefit. Some will pay, some will not pay. You would engage the business community. So bear in mind that this karma you have just referred to, 4 years from today, we may. You can even call it 50 years. 50 years, 60 years. So let us solve the problem now. Let us encourage state security agencies with a mandate to investigate and prosecute to follow the law. Let's encourage them to follow the law. Honorable Nitiwu, in his submission, was being very emotional because just a week ago, he had to invite the leaders to intervene. Some and the clerk. Some people calling themselves state security operatives chased him, his car, a former defense minister. And when they saw the car papers, they now realized that whatever the information they had was wrong. A colonel had to come, and when he questioned them, that who sent you, they could not mention. So when we give certain wrong signals, some of those people at the lowest level take advantage to harass people, and even senior members who give order, when they realize that it is wrong, they are unable to even own up. Honorable Nitiwu, a former defense minister, suffered this just a week ago. It took the intervention of leadership and the clerk to parliament to sanitize the situation. Is that what we want? Is that what we want? Mr. Lord Comey, his house was raided. They searched his house, took away all his cars, and after 3 days, they said, we are sorry. They brought the cars back. Is that how we want to govern the country? Mr. Speaker, I shall conclude by urging my colleagues to support this call in bringing sanity in the country so that nobody will take advantage to unleash any violence on anybody. I rest my case. Thank you.
Yes, majority leadership.
Mr. Speaker, before the statement was made, I had cautioned that this is a statement that definitely will generate commentary that will provoke debate in clear violation of our standing orders. And I caution that it is a statement that will attract comments that will go to perhaps damage the reputation of somebody who is not in this chamber. I cautioned. But my friends on the other side insisted and made statement. Mr. Speaker, you are a believer in the rule of law, and you know the law. You know that if you claim that somebody has improperly searched your house or your property, you go to court. You go to court for the courts to declare that your property rights have been violated, that your dignity has been violated, and the courts are there to provide you that service of taking a decision as to whether or not indeed your rights have been violated. In court, the two sides will be there, and they will all be heard. But if you choose to use a political platform like this one, Parliament, to raise matters that, properly speaking, are the business of courts, you will receive political responses. And that is what I see happening here. Mr. Speaker, as for me, what I hear being said here is that there is a certain class called the political class, and that political class must take care of each other. And what I hear being said in this chamber is that taking care of each other means that we should not hold each other accountable. Mr. Speaker, I have always contended that it will be the most dangerous thing that will happen to the democracy of this country if a certain group called the political class are allowed to conspire to protect each other. Because what will happen, Mr. Speaker,
Honourable members, order.
Mr. Speaker, I am saying what I hear. What I hear. There has been several referrals to a group called political class. Did you hear that or not? Several times there was a referral to a group known as a political class. And several times a call on members of the political class not to do this to each other. And what do we mean by let's not do this to each other? Let's not, when there is a change in government, try to hold each other accountable this way or that way. I take a position that, indeed, the reason why the voters go and vote for one political party as against the other is so that they will come and hold each other accountable. The day that we stop holding each other accountable, that will be the day the electorate will lose confidence in this democracy. And when they lose confidence in this democracy, that is the end of democracy in Ghana. So we must hold each other accountable. When we vote for a new party and the party come, they owe a duty to those who voted them to hold those who have been taken out accountable. As for how they do it, it should be a matter of following due process and the law. Let's talk about nolle prosequi. I heard somebody mention nolle prosequi. And withdrawal of prosecutions. Mr. Speaker, if the state of Ghana, if the Republic of Ghana prosecutes a citizen for 8 years and is unable to convict that citizen, then there's a problem. There is a problem. How can the state mount a prosecution for 8 good years with all the resources at the disposal of the state and yet not be able to convict that citizen? Or at least get a ruling on that citizen. Either you are guilty or you are not guilty. So when you are unable and you try somebody for 8 good years, 8 good years, and you cannot secure a conviction, then clearly there's something wrong with the case. And so if another Attorney General comes and is convinced that you don't even have a basis for the prosecution and enters a nolle prosequi, that is not a case of clearing people. You had 8 good years to secure a conviction, and 8 years you failed. Clearly there's something wrong, and that is what has manifested itself in a nolle prosequi. Mr. Speaker, let me say that I cautioned against making the statement because I didn't want us to go into a situation where we'll be making unfair comments about somebody who is not in the chamber to defend himself. Mr. Speaker, the facts are simple. That military officers, policemen, and national security personnel invaded, entered, searched the private property of the former Minister of Finance. Mr. Speaker, I will not run any commentary on that matter until I've conducted some investigations, ascertain what the facts are, and then I will come and appraise this House of exactly what happened so that we can be properly informed. If there is anything that we should condemn about what has happened, we can collectively as a House condemn it. I caution you that don't make statements that would involve commentary that will undermine the image of someone, because I will not be happy if it is done to me, and that is why I objected. And so I'm not going to join colleagues to comment on the statement, except to add that the Office of Special Prosecutor has been severally mentioned. This was an office that was established to investigate and prosecute alleged cases of corruption and abuse of office by public officers. They have indicated that in this instance, they are investigating the former finance minister for 2 stated matters that they are investigating, which is matters relating to SML. I'm sure you are all aware that it was a big issue in this country where it is alleged that there was some corruption scandal relating to revenue assurance contracts awarded by the Ministry of Finance and the GRA to SML. And then secondly, there's this big issue of the National Cathedral, which we all know the story of, that some monies were paid for work that is supposed to have been done there, and it is alleged that the work has not been done. So the special prosecutor is seized with the matter, is investigating the matter, and wants the former finance minister to appear before them for some investigation. They indicate that there are 2 other matters they are investigating, but they haven't indicated exactly what those 2 other matters are. So, Mr. Speaker, let's be cautious not to make statements that will be prejudicial to the work of the special prosecutor. And that was why I cautioned and advised that we shouldn't raise the matter in this chamber. But once we've made the issue a matter for discussion in this chamber, we cannot also begrudge those who run commentary on the personality of the former finance minister. But let me touch a little on this issue of using the military. Mr. Speaker, I shouldn't say this, but I am compelled to say it. The electoral commissioner, I have observed that for several years, a whole military battalion was placed in front of her house to protect her house. At a time when Nitiwul was the defense minister, didn't Nitiwul know that the police are available to provide security to the electoral commissioner? Nitiwul, he was defense minister, and he placed a whole military battalion at the entrance of the electoral commissioner's residence. And the electoral commissioner was guarded by soldiers who followed her all the time. Today, the same Nitiwul Let me repeat it whilst he's here. Sit down, let me repeat what I said in your presence. I'm saying that you are very concerned about the use of the military to conduct searches in people's homes. And I'm reminding you that whilst you stood there as Minister for Defense and sat there as Minister for Defense, had oversight over the military, you used the military to guard the residence of the Electoral Commissioner. True or false? Mr. Speaker, he used the military to provide personal security for the Electoral Commissioner.
I recognize Honorable Dominic Nitiwood on the point of order.
Mr. Speaker, thank you very much. And I want to thank the majority leader for dragging me back to the chamber. It is true, Mr. Speaker, that on the advice of state security, we gave soldiers to certain categories of people, including your good self.
Honorable Niti will be guided by Standing Order 122.
Thank you. We did give to the letter commissioner and the deputies. We gave to the OSP, and we also gave to the Speaker of Parliament. So it is true, and not just soldiers. There were joint soldiers and police. So that is true. But Mr. Speaker, that is different from, and they were not a battalion. First of all, they were not a battalion. A battalion of soldiers is 800 to 1,000 soldiers. So there was not a battalion. There were anything between 3 soldiers and 4 soldiers at a time.
So, Honorable Nitiwood, let me understand you. He alluded to the fact that when you are a defense minister, they use soldiers to guide.
Mr. Speaker, he did say that I use a battalion of soldiers to protect the letter commissioner.
I heard soldiers.
I never use a battalion of soldiers to protect the letter
Honorable
commissioner.
Honorable Nitiwood.
It is true.
The word used is soldiers. I have heard soldiers.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Let me confirm again that the letter commissioner enjoyed the use, not just the letter commissioner, the Speaker for about 2 years, the OSP, up to now the OSP, they enjoy the services of soldiers and police to guide them on the advice of state security. And at any time, and I wrote to them, and that at any time that we felt that circumstances demanded that we withdraw either the soldiers or the police, we will do that. And each of them had between 3 to 6 soldiers, depending on the circumstances. So it is true.
What is the point of order within the meaning of Standing Order 122?
So the point of order is that at no point did I use a battalion of soldiers to protect any individual.
Mr. Speaker,
Majority Leader, continue.
The simple point I want to make is that all regimes at all times have used the military together with the police in certain operations. You agree that that is the case? So today, if you see the military and the police working together, you cannot suddenly create an impression that something that is unacceptable has happened. Because we have used them together. Indeed, Mr. Speaker, night security, just night security. When we should be deploying the police, we often deploy them with the soldiers. So let's not make it look like, for the first time, something that has never been heard of is happening in this country simply because a joint military and police team have visited the residence of the former finance minister. Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Alfred Pong.
Mr. Speaker,
What?
I don't know what raid means. I don't know what raid means, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I don't know who was in the residence at that time. That's why I said give me time to conduct some inquiries and come and brief the House. But the first point I want to make is that don't make it seem as if something unheard of has happened because soldiers and police have visited the residence of a former finance minister. Mr. Speaker, as for the issues that have been mentioned here, the conduct of searches, the prosecution of politicians, investigation of politicians, we've all gone through all of that and we are standing here, including my very good self. The OSP has investigated me, has taken me to, the court. I have fought my case. I have won. I won. So I advise you,
Honorable Majority Leader, please address the chair. Honorable Dominic Nitiwul,
I advise you.
You are a senior member of the House.
Instead of making it a subject of debate in this chamber, please go and answer the questions. Like some of us boldly and confidently went and answered the questions. We were investigated, we were arraigned in court, we responded to our charges, we defended ourselves, and we got judgments in our favor. And then we are free people. That is how a democracy functions. Don't make it look like suddenly a particular class is under attack because institutions of state that are supposed to hold us accountable have activated themselves and are doing their work. I don't know if there was any raid, but I know that whether police or soldiers, any member of the security agencies can be used at any time. In an effort to engage in law enforcement. That's how I see it. But like I said, I will check, double check, and come back to you with a report of exactly what happened. This House has a duty to protect the human rights of citizens. If you check our own standing orders, you know that we even have a committee, a human rights committee. And the job of the human rights committee is to take on human rights complaints, investigate them, and then take the appropriate decisions in respect of those complaints. So we have a human rights mandate. And so if anybody thinks that his or her rights have been violated and decides not to go to the Human Rights Commission or to go to the High Court to seek an enforcement of their rights, but choose to make a petition to Parliament, Parliament's Human Rights Committee has a duty to take on the petition, investigate it, and then give appropriate direction. Because we don't have a committee yet, I undertake, as the leader of this House, to look into the matter, get some report, and come and present it to you. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, honorable members. This House is a house of debate, and we are guided by rules in the conduct of business, be it question, statement, motion, resolutions, among others. I must state that the manner in which the matter under consideration has been carried out certainly leaves much to be desired. Honourable members, Order 93 is very clear on prior indulgence of the House and the leave of the Speaker in the Speaker's admission of statement. The Speaker in the chair then indulged the maker of the statement with caution that honorable members will be circumspect and measured in their pronouncement. Unfortunately, in my own opinion, some honorable members certainly went overboard. Rules are made to guide proceedings. Where there are no rules, the Speaker is enjoined to provide appropriate interventions. I urge honorable members to be on the guide accordingly in order for order, decorum, and decency to characterize proceedings on the floor of this House. We must also be cautious to uphold the right of persons who do not have audience on the floor of the House in our conduct of proceedings. They may not have the opportunity to be heard on the floor of the House. Honourable members, regarding the issue relating to the former minister responsible for finance, I am aware it's a subject matter of investigation by the Office of the Special Prosecutor. Honourable members, the Office of the Special Prosecutor is established by the Office of the Special Prosecutors Act 2017, Act 959. Honourable members, the law mandates the Special Prosecutor to investigate specific cases of alleged corruption or corruption-related offenses involving public officers and persons who have been entrusted with prominent public functions in Ghana or outside Ghana. Honourable members, I would therefore urge the Special Prosecutor to operate within the ambit of the law. Honourable members, we are all not above the law. Therefore, as Ghanaians, we must respect each other and operate within the ambit of the law. I thank you for the opportunity. Honourable members, we have two other statements. One is in the name of Honourable Mohammed Amin Adam, Member of Parliament for Karaga, on the policies of the new Trump administration in the United States and their implication for Ghana's economic development. The other one is a statement by Honourable Nana Ose Ajay, MP for New Joburg North constituency, on the impact of USAID shut down on Ghana's economy. Honourable members, if it pleases you, we may want to take the statement together and take contributions on them. I would therefore call on Honourable Mohammed Amin Adam to present his statement.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker, for allowing me to make a statement on this all-important subject of the implications of the policies of the new Trump administration in the United States on Ghana's economic development. The reinstatement of Trump's administration policies, including freezing funds to USAID, imposing tariffs on major trading partners, mass deportation, and withdrawing from the Paris Accord on climate change poses significant challenges for many countries, including Ghana. USAID has been a crucial partner in Ghana's development, funding numerous projects in healthcare, education, and infrastructure. Freezing these funds to USAID implies that Ghana will lose $150 million United States dollars annually. With the national budget already very tight, this could lead to reduction in development aid, exposing essential projects to face cutbacks or cancellations, affecting sectors critical to Ghana's growth. I've taken notice of the President's directive to the Minister for Finance to fund the funding gap resulting from freezing funds to USAID. But with a budget already tight and the government planning to scrap some taxes, I'm wondering how this funding gap is going to be done. But this is an indication of the fact that we are already feeling the effects of the policies of the Trump administration. While tariffs directly imposed on Canada and Mexico may not immediately affect Ghana, secondary effects could arise. The global trade disruptions that arise from tariffs on major economies can lead to shifts in global trade partners and patterns, potentially reducing demand for Ghanaian exports. Countries affected by US tariffs might seek new markets, increasing competition for Ghanaian products. This action could also lead to changes in trade dynamics, which could disrupt supply chains that Ghanaian businesses rely on. The mass deportation of immigrants from the United States could have several repercussions for Ghana. Remittances from Ghanaians living in the US contribute significantly to the local economy. Deportation could reduce this valuable income stream. Also, an influx of returnees might strain social services and job markets, necessitating urgent policy responses. So far, it is reported by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs that the number of Ghanaians affected by the deportation program is negligible. However, given Ghana's stability, other African citizens deported to their countries that are politically unstable could escape this instability to Ghana. Mr. Speaker, there is no doubt that the new Trump administration will bring a shift in policies and priorities, both domestically and internationally, as we are already witnessing, which will affect policy choices in developing countries like Ghana. However, every coin has two sides, Mr. Speaker. Therefore, the effects notwithstanding, Ghana stands poised to capitalize on several opportunities provided by Trump's policies for economic development. By strategically aligning with the administration's policies, Ghana can foster growth, attract investments, and strengthen its economic ties with the United States. One of the key areas where Ghana can benefit is through enhanced trade and investment relations. The Trump administration's focus on bilateral trade agreements presents an opportunity for Ghana to negotiate favorable terms that boost exports and attract American investments. By emphasizing sectors such as agriculture, manufacturing, and technology, Ghana can position itself as a valuable trade partner. Ghana's agricultural sector has immense potential for growth, and the Trump administration policies could provide a significant boost by increasing access to the American market. Ghana can export more cocoa, coffee, and other agricultural products, thereby generating foreign exchange and supporting rural development. Additionally, collaboration on agricultural technology and best practices could enhance productivity and sustainability. The Trump administration's focus on reviving American manufacturing can be leveraged by Ghana to attract investment in our own manufacturing sector. By promoting joint ventures and partnerships, Ghana can benefit from technology transfer, skills development, and job creation. Special economic zones and industrial parks can be established to facilitate these collaborations, creating a conducive environment for American businesses to invest in Ghana. Mr. Speaker, due to Ghana's non-aligned status, the benefits of the new U.S. policies, particularly President Trump's preference for bilateral partnership, should not overshadow our quest to harness the potential of multilateralism. We stand at a crucial juncture where we can harness the power of multilateralism to drive our economic agenda while fostering a robust relationship with the United States under the new Trump administration. Multilateralism, with its emphasis on cooperation among multiple countries, can offer Ghana avenues for sustainable development, international partnerships, and economic resilience. Simultaneously, maintaining a positive relationship with the United States can provide bilateral benefits that further our national interest. Mr. Speaker, permit me to add that multilateral development banks such as the World Bank and the African Development Bank can continue to provide Ghana with financing for critical infrastructure projects. And these projects, ranging from transportation networks to energy facilities, are essential for Ghana's economic growth. By securing funding and technical assistance from these institutions, Ghana can build the infrastructure needed to support our development agenda and attract further investment, including from the United States. Mr. Speaker, the new Trump administration's policies present numerous opportunities for Ghana to enhance our economic development. By strategically aligning with these policies, whilst embracing multilateral frameworks, Ghana can attract investment, boost trade, develop infrastructure, improve education, and promote tourism. It is crucial for Ghana to actively engage with the United States, leverage its strengths, and build partnerships that drive sustainable economic growth and prosperity. By maintaining a balanced approach that combines multilateral engagements with strong bilateral relations, Ghana can navigate the complexities of international diplomacy and achieve our development objectives. This strategy will enable our country to benefit from the collective strength of multilateral cooperation whilst reaping the rewards of a positive and productive relations with the United States. Mr. Speaker, let me conclude by drawing attention to key strategic interventions Ghana needs to adopt to position ourselves to withstand the effects of President Trump's policies. Number one, to mitigate the impact of potential trade disruptions, Ghana should expand market access by seeking new trade agreements and partnerships with other regions, such as the European Union, Asia, Middle East, and Africa, and also promote export sectors by investing in and promoting sectors with high export potential, such as agriculture, textiles, and technology. Number two, to reduce dependence on international aid and imports and to fortify our economic resilience, the government must support local industries to encourage their growth, fostering self-reliance and job creation. The government should also continue to invest in critical infrastructure to support efficient production and distribution of goods. Number three, Ghana should explore diverse funding avenues to replace potential shortfalls from the United States by promoting foreign direct investment through the creation of a favorable investment climate, focusing on sectors with high growth potential. The government should engage with international financial institutions, fostering public-private partnerships, and tapping into diaspora bonds, which can provide the necessary capital to sustain growth initiatives in healthcare, education, and infrastructure. Four, building strong diplomatic relationships can help counterbalance the adverse effects of U.S. policies. For example, Ghana's continuous active engagement in the African Union, the United Nations, and other multilateral organizations can elevate Ghana's global standing. There is also the need to continue to forge alliances with countries that share similar development goals to facilitate collaborative efforts in addressing common challenges like climate change, debt distress, and poverty alleviation. Finally, to address security concerns exacerbated by U.S. policies, Ghana should enhance regional cooperation by collaborating with neighboring countries and regional bodies to improve intelligence sharing and ensure that we have enhanced border security. Government must also invest in human security by focusing on education, healthcare, and social services to create a stable society that is less susceptible to extremist influences. I thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to make this statement.
Thank you very much, Honorable Amin Adam. I will now call upon Honorable Nana Ose Adjei.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to speak on the impact of USAID shutdown on Ghana's economy. Mr. Speaker, I am very grateful for the opportunity given me to make a brief statement on the impact of USAID shutdown on Ghana's economy. The United States Agency for International Development is primarily responsible for administering civilian foreign aid. Responding to former President Barack Obama's pledge in his 2013 State of the Nation's address,
how many contributions each?
to join with other allies to eradicate extreme poverty in the next 2 decades. USAID adopted its mission statement to partner to end extreme poverty and promote resilient democratic societies while advancing the security and prosperity of the United States and beyond. USAID operates in Africa, Asia, Latin America, the Middle East, and Eastern Europe. Right Honorable Speaker, permit me to list some of the interventions USAID has made in Ghana for the past years in a number of areas such as health, agriculture, education, and governance. In terms of agriculture, through its Feed the Future initiative, USAID has supported smallholder farmers, especially in northern Ghana, where poverty and more nutrition are prevalent. The program has increased food production, improved market access, and built resilience among farmers. Without this support, many will struggle to sustain their livelihoods. Beyond agriculture, USAID has made instrumental in strengthening Ghana's democracy, rights, and governance. It has played a critical role in ensuring free and fair elections, improving local governance, and enhancing accountability in public institutions. With the Donald Trump administration sounding war drums on the shutdown of the operations of USAID worldwide, opinions have varied, with some expressing little surprise at the turn of events. The cut in the funding will affect the U.S. President's Emergency Plan for AIDS Relief, PEPFAR, which provides vital HIV prevention, care, and treatment services. A decrease in development assistance could severely disrupt vital initiatives, which are essential in addressing Ghana's public health challenges. PEPFAR, which operates largely through USAID, provides antiretroviral treatment to thousands of Ghanaians living with HIV/AIDS. If these funds disappear, countless people could lose access to essential health care, reversing years of progress in disease control. USAID has been a lifeline in fighting malaria, improving medical health, and funding life-saving vaccines. Mr. Speaker, permit me to say again that USAID shutdown would likely have a negative impact on Ghana's economy, potentially leading to decreased investment in critical infrastructure and many more, not to leave out the many NGOs that rely on USAID for support. In view of this, I call on all stakeholders, including us, members of Parliament, as leaders, to take a critical look at this issue. Mr. Speaker, in Nigeria, in response to this directive from the government of the US, the Nigerian government, through the Federal Executive Council, approved $1.7 billion for healthcare reforms and $4.8 billion for HIV treatment. Like the Nigerian government response, other African nations should seize this moment to look inward and begin the journey toward self-sufficiency in critical sectors. Mr. Speaker, during the commissioning of the National Vaccine Institute in Ghana by His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, the former President of the Republic of Ghana, on Wednesday, 10th May 2023, He highlighted his government's determination to ensure that Ghana is never again a victim or pawn of the international vaccine order. The National Vaccine Institute is thus expected to operationalize government's vision of securing the much-needed vaccines through domestic vaccine development and manufacturing in short, medium, and long-term phases. The Institute was given a seed money to coordinate and facilitate the capacity of domestic pharmaceutical companies to fill, finish, and package mRNA, COVID-19, malaria, and tuberculosis vaccines. Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo went on to explain that vaccine nationalism played out by the developed world during the COVID-19 pandemic was a wake-up call for Ghana to take its own destiny into its own hands. As if he knew that this will spring up again in the foreseeable future. Thanks to the former president for this foresight. Mr. Speaker, while Ghana and Africa, Mr. Speaker, while Ghana and Africa still has a long way to go, timely and decisive leadership could set the continent on the right path, reducing years of overdependence on the US and other foreign donors. Mr. Speaker, it has always been said by renowned scholars and leadership consultants that no country can build a sustainable future by relying solely on foreign aid. Ghana must take proactive steps to secure its progress and reduce its dependence on external support. One critical step is domestic resource mobilization. The government must strengthen tax collection, close loopholes, and reduce losses to ensure that essential programs such as healthcare, education, and infrastructure are funded from within. Additionally, public-private partnership must be expanded. Encouraging businesses to invest in key sectors like healthcare and education will ease the burden on government spending. When the private sector is engaged, development becomes more sustainable. Beyond this, Ghana must diversify its partnership. Finally, Mr. Speaker, while the US has been a key ally, it is essential to engage strategically with other players like the European Union, the African Development Bank, and emerging global economies. This will ensure continuous support whilst reducing dependency on any single donor. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity. The good people of New Jabbernoff are grateful. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. I will open the floor and take comment subject to Order 93.5. Honorable Deputy Majority Whip.
Mr. Speaker, thank you very much for the opportunity to comment on the statements made by our colleagues. Mr. Speaker, this is more of a research paper, and I think after commenting on it, we need to archive it and publish it, because the first one is coming from the just past a former finance minister. And he has done extensive work. He has researched into it. If you read the document, it's very insightful and very educative. Likewise, my colleague who just finished reading his statement. So, Mr. Speaker, the issues raised by the former finance minister, he himself has also provided an antidote to deal with the matter, which tells you that at least he knows the challenges ahead of us and he has provided some information. If we take all those issues on board, we can address these very issues. But Mr. Speaker, I must say that history is repeating itself. COVID-19 exposed our medical system in this country. We said among each other, let's invest so much into our health facilities, and even there was a mantra, Ghana beyond aid. Let's look within. Let's develop our own nation. Let's develop our own economy so that there will not be even an attractive venture for our youth to travel outside the country to seek for greener pasture. Because if you read the statement, he's talking about deportations. So if we're able to develop our own nation and our youth will just travel for fun, for holidays, as tourists, there's no motivation for somebody to go overstay abroad to talk about even deportation. But no matter what, you can find one or two in that instance. So what are we doing to ourselves? We talk about import substitutions. Locally, what are we providing? What are we producing? The question is, are we also consuming what they are producing? We behave as if we don't care what is happening around us. Yesterday, there was Mr. Speaker's breakfast prayer meeting, and he made mention of everybody is patronizing perfume rice.
Honourable member, remember you are speaking within 5 minutes.
Mr. Speaker, this statement, thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, I think this sanction or the withdrawal of USAID support has come at the right time, because the finance minister is about presenting his budget to the House. Yesterday, the president issued a statement calling on the finance minister to provide a funding gap to deal with this situation. So this will feed into our budgeting. It will feed in our plans. So we need to be disciplined. Let's cut the waste. Like His Excellency Jordan Mama said, unnecessary travels, first class. You can go with the business class so that we can make some savings. Mr. Speaker, so if we are not disciplined, if we are not able to cut expenditure, because in the statement, he talked about revenue mobilization. How do you raise enough revenue and increase your expenditure?
Honourable member, conclude.
Mr. Speaker, I will conclude by saying, just a few months ago, our colleagues were attacking us to approve about $300 million tax exemptions. So if you raise revenue, on the other hand, you give freebies to other people, how do you get enough revenue to deal with such a situation? So we need to be disciplined. I'm talking about fiscal discipline, so that by the end of the day, we get enough revenue in the kitty to deal with such unforeseen shocks, unforeseen contingencies. We cannot be speaking to matters like this and go to sleep. We need to put in place measures to address them. I thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you very much. Honourable Patrick Yaobama, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. 5 minutes. Mr. Speaker, let me put on record that nobody travels first class in this chamber. So when you are speaking, you are sending messages out there for them to attack you again. Because apart from Emirates Airlines, no aircraft or airline has first class services in Ghana. Actually, you have to be very careful, Honorable Achampo. Mr. Speaker, I'm going to mention 5 things that will affect some of President Trump's executive orders and its effects on Ghana and Africa as a whole. One is the suspension of foreign assistance, this foreign assistance program, which the president, I believe, promptly directed the finance minister to look for the funding gap for the 156 million USD that the US aid was providing to Ghana. That's, my calculation here is about 2.4 billion Ghana cedis. So, Speaker, it's going to be a challenge Secondly is the external revenue service. There's going to be some tax calculation distortions that will hit Africa because of remittances and other issues that will come our way, Mr. Speaker. Thirdly is a withdrawal from the Paris Agreement. Mr. Speaker, United States alone contributes 14% of the world's carbon emissions after China. And it's an issue that we must look at critically, especially where we've created supporting, the Ministry of Energy is now supported by, it's known as the Ministry for Energy and Green Transition, or Energy Transition, Mr. Speaker, where we are seeking to trade in carbon under that program within the Paris Agreement. Mr. Speaker, fourthly is the withdrawal of the United States support from the World Health Organization, which is going to affect Africa and Ghana. The U.S. contributes $1.24 billion to the World Health Organization, and those programs are partly funded or has far-reaching implications on our health delivery system, Mr. Speaker. Last but not the least, Mr. Speaker, is the National Energy Emergency Program. The U.S. is now going to explore more oil and gas, and that will, in effect, drive down the prices of oil and gas globally. Mr. Speaker, Ghana is a net importer of petroleum products, finished products. We produce only 120,000 barrels of crude oil a day. That is chicken change compared to the over 1.4 million barrels that the Nigerians produce. So if the little that we are producing, U.S. is going to increase their production levels and it will drive down prices, we are not going to gain the kind of money or revenues that we are seeking to derive from. And that will also create a funding gap in our budget. So we expect to hear some of these interventions from the minister's budget come the end of March, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, our colleague spoke about 1D, 1F programs and the fact that we must look into import substitution, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, it's a call in the right direction. This House did not approve the tax incentives for the 1D, 1F programs. We're seeking a total of about 100 million USD, not 300. My colleague was a member of the Finance Committee, which I chaired. We did not ask for 300. We drove down the prices, took out raw materials, and only focused on equipment, Mr. Speaker. All in all, Mr. Trump and his administration is telling us something that we must take on board, that we must generate revenues within our borders, grow our local industries, create the jobs that are supposed to be created by the private sector. Government cannot absorb all the unemployment that we unemployment levels that we see on our streets, Mr. Speaker. We must be creative in our ways and ensure that this country does better than we are seeing today. I thank you very much for the opportunity.
It's now the turn of Haji Aladi Ayamba, Honorable.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, let me first of all congratulate the makers of the statements, and I wish to start with the issue of the deportations, which is of much interest and very important because we do not even know what would be happening to our colleagues, our brothers, our sisters who would be caught up in the U.S. It's most unfortunate, Mr. Speaker, that this policy has come to hit. It might not be only Ghana, and I know for sure it wouldn't be only Ghana, but we are bothered about our own country. I am so happy to have heard from the Minister for Foreign Affairs, Honorable Ablakwa, who has come out to say that from the records in the ministry, there are 150 persons who are currently supposed to be deported. And he has also made it clear that they should report to the various offices where they would get some kind of support to enable them come. Thank God, Mr. Speaker, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama has introduced and has already spoken about the 24-hour economy. Let us embrace what we have. Let us embrace what we have. No matter how many we are, no matter how little we have, most people go out and they go and do menial jobs. If you are in your own country and you decide, or the country comes together, unites, and works towards development, and most of the youth are employed, I don't think that there's anybody who would wish to go and be in that cold, running here and there, working, and not even, some of them doing works that even they have never dreamt of. My prayer is that they should come home safely. The greatest problem I have is those who might not even hear this. They might not even know, and some of them would fear. So I want to urge the Minister for Foreign Affairs to let the message go down well, that anybody, even if that person thinks he or she is not part of the 150 persons that are already registered, the person should report. After all, that person is a Ghanaian. We should appreciate our own country, and I think that that policy is a wake-up call to us. It is a wake-up call to us. We shouldn't think that people have worked somewhere, it is rosy, and we are running there to go and benefit. Like someone said somewhere, that look, if they bring that category, those same category of people from America, let's take it so, or the developed countries, for instance, into Ghana, and give them 2 years, they will change Ghana to be better and to be like their own country, America, for which we are running to. And if we are sent there, because we are not ready to work and to take up issues by ourselves and ensure that what we grow is what we eat, what we grow is what we wear, what we have is what we must appreciate, and that we must be ready to live within our means, we will still turn those countries to places that nobody would want, and we will still be running back to our old countries where they have taken and made better. So, Mr. Speaker, I am happy that the Minister for Foreign Affairs, Honorable Ablakwa, is up and doing. The issue of USAID, with all the medications and what have you, yes, it will affect us. But what have we been thinking? What have we been doing? We need to work harder. We need to appreciate ourselves. Let us work together. The region must be integrated. African countries must come together and ensure that we are each other's keeper. If we are each other's keeper, Mr. Speaker, I believe that we should be able to get all the drugs that we think we need. And also, Mr. Speaker, last but not the least, before I take my seat, let us appreciate our local persons who provide certain medications. Let us make sure we work on them so that they will be able to support us with some locally produced medications which really help. And I'm sure it will go a long way. So as for me, I don't blame Trump for what he has done. He has only woken us from sleep. Let us wake up from the slumber, let us work, and let us keep together, and inshallah we shall be well. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much. I will give the floor to Honorable Ntim Fojo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. I rise to comment on the two statements that are on the floor and to commend the makers of the statement, the Honorable Mohammed Amin Adam, member for Karaga, and the Honorable Nana Oseje, member for New Jabe North, for bringing to the fore Trump's policy implications on Ghana and the shutdown of USAID and its potential impact on Ghana, respectively. Mr. Speaker, since the establishment of USAID by President John F. Kennedy in 1961, the agency, in my view, has served its mandate truly and fulfilled their mandate of assisting humanitarian interventions across health, education, and many sectors, particularly agriculture, in many countries. If it has come to a point where a new president deems fit to take the country on a new direction in their national interest, it is important that we in Ghana also reposition the fundamentals of our economic decisions to be able to be resilient to absorb the potential shocks that these decisions will have on us. Experts have predicted, and rightly so, the makers of the statement have also corroborated, millions of Ghanaians that are going to be impacted adversely by these decisions by the President of the United States, particularly across the sectors of agri, education, and health. This year alone, as the figures have been indicated, Ghana requested, in partnership with USAID's intervention, a total of $137.7 million. And out of this, $16 million relates to education. It is important that recognizing the critical roles that the partnerships Ghana had underway with USAID relating to sustainable agriculture, supporting farmers to improve their yields in health sector, very important critical programs on HIV prevention and ensuring that some key diseases are fought and treated, and in particular in education, having traversed from transition to English Plus to now the stages, the G2G agreement. It is expected that the first budget of President Mahama in 2025 should be responsive and should be robust enough to be nuanced to respond to the shortfalls that stare us in the face, the shortfalls that need to be addressed. We are expecting that to find expression in the budget that is to come. Particularly on health, in the year 2015, one early grade reading assessment indicated that in P2 learners across the country, only 2% of them could read at grade level. It took the intervention of the partnership between Ministry of Education and USAID's transition to English Plus, which was part of their learning activity, to ensure that phonics-based approaches and interventions were deployed across the country in very key schools. Teachers were trained in those phonics-based approaches, teaching and learning materials were produced, and by those interventions, supporting other interventions of the ministry and GES, we're able to drive that, improve upon reading abilities of our learners. And by the year 2023, when the National Standardized Test was conducted, we saw an improvement from 2% of pupils at P2 reading in 2015 to 38%. And that was a significant improvement. That program was touted globally as the best reading program. Now, we graduated from there, and in September, my boss here, the Honorable Minister for Education, former, and now Member of Parliament for Bosomtwe, Honorable Dr. Alseduchum, launched in conjunction with USAID the G2G level partnership agreement, which is stages, strengthening accountabilities in Ghana education system. Mr. Speaker, in conclusion, all these are very important, but it shows that we as a government at this point, without having control over the decisions of other countries, particularly very key development partners, must take steps to prioritize funding to these critical education interventions to ensure the seamless implementation, to augment on the gains, to ensure that the decisions taken by President Trump do not halt our gains that we've made. Lastly, on deportation, the official numbers that have been put up by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs stand at 156 potential Ghanaians that face deportation. But however, the numbers, they may be more
your
or
time
less.
is up.
Yes, it is important that they are assisted with consular services to be deported in dignity, not in chains. They are already facing traumatizing experiences, having been separated from their families with no hope of ever seeing them again. This is the time we call on Ministry of Foreign Affairs
take the floor
to ensure that they safely return our people.
You have the floor.
And I thank you with these few words, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you for the opportunity, Mr. Speaker. And I can only make a very brief contribution to the statements that have been made, but I'll focus on the one that was ably done and so deeply researched by the former Minister for Finance. I really enjoyed that work, and I actually focused on the areas that he ended his note on and mentioned that there needs to be some level of deep focus on social interventions, and I heard clearly the mention of education. I want to associate myself deeply with that comment and state that all the interventions that we need to move this country forward and expand our economy are linked to one important ingredient, which I call technical vocational education and training. And I'm happy that my seniors, both Dr. Reverend Ntim Fojo and former Minister for Education are here, and I believe they would really associate themselves with my mention of TVET. I say so because it is a known factor, it is a known fact that education is key to development, but the master key to development is TVET. And if this country would expand all that we need to be able to grow this economy, I believe that skills development is critical. All the industries that we need, they need to have a high level of skills to be able to uptake the technology, various technologies that will expand our economy. And if this will develop, this has to do with how we're able to pump some money, finance our TVET education in Ghana. This is a very good and pragmatic way of improving upon our export development. And that is why the mention, one key policy that has found great expression in the NDC manifesto, which is being implemented now, the 24-hour economy policy, the mention of the 24-hour economy, the export development drive, the improvement, improvement in apprenticeship, modernization of same. These are critical ingredients that I believe that if we pursue this and put some more funding in these, that they do not suffer, this country would improve economically. This country would have the necessary impetus to export and get the necessary foreign exchange that will drive the economy. I thank you for the opportunity, Mr. Speaker.
Now, leadership. Leadership.
Mr. Speaker, I'm yielding to Honorable.
Honorable, you have the floor. 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I will also want to join the maker, other colleagues, to thank the maker of the statement for such a thorough statement, well-researched by the Honourable Member for Karga, ably supported by also the Honourable Member for Akwapum, New Joabin, South, North. Thank you. Mr. Speaker, I would focus on the gap and the implication of that gap on government fiscals. Mr. Speaker, the Speaker has stated clearly, the maker of the statement has stated clearly that this decision by the United States government, President Donald Trump, to cut funding globally, 98% of USAID funding to developing countries has come with its own implication. And in Ghana, annually, we are going to have a shortfall of funding of about 150 million United States dollars. Mr. Speaker, let me put this in context. the honorable member for Okakwe Central posited that we are going to have a shortfall of about 2 billion Ghana cedi. This is equivalent. In fact, it is falling short of the amount we earn from e-levy. In other words, government will need a revenue handle like the e-levy or similar method or similar handle to replace the funding gap. Mr. Speaker, the 2 billion shortfall will have to come on the back of the fact that government is already doing away with several revenue handles. And many youth programs, government programs, for instance, the Youth Empowerment Program by the USAID is going to be cancelled. Agriculture program, like the support program for farmers in the north, is going to be cancelled. Educational program, such as the Teaching and Learning Material, TLM Plus, by the United States government is going to be cancelled. This is the implication of the action by Donald Trump. And this, we must note that is coming to bite the Ghanaian economy. We are going to face the reeling effect of that action. Mr. Speaker, what can be done to ameliorate this situation? The maker of the statement ably, competently, and brilliantly submitted the proposed solutions. And I will go with one of the measures he mentioned, multilateralism. Mr. Speaker, the maker of the statement has actually highlighted the fact that we can still have relations with our development or multilateral partners, such as the African Development Bank and the World Bank. Once we get this relationship ongoing, they can come in to fill in the 150 million funding gap that is being created due to the United States government policy decision to stop funding to developing countries. Mr. Speaker, last but not the least is the government own measures to rake in...
Honorable Achampo, are you on point of order?
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
What order?
Order 125 of our standing orders.
125 or 122?
125. Anticipation. Mr. Speaker, our rules are very clear.
Very well.
The honorable member is contributing to a statement, and we know making a comment should not provoke further debates. And he's anticipating that we'll cancel education this, we'll cancel health this. Please. Honorable member, the government of the day is going to present its budget by the end of the first week in March. Let's wait. If even the USAID is cancelled or withdrawing its support, let's see what is in that budget. The kind of provision this government is going to provide in the budget. So they can withdraw their support to us. We are not going to cancel any. You are trying fear and panic to the public. Our rules are clear. They can cancel their programs. They can withdraw their funding. We will make enough provision to deal with those issues. So Order 125 is clear. Don't anticipate anything which has not been brought before this House. We can do this House at this House. The budget has not been presented. We don't know the kind of intervention this government is going to provide. By 27, there will be a State of the Nation address. So you'll be comforted, my brother.
Thank you very much. Honorable member, be guided. Please proceed.
Mr. Speaker, just safe to say that that wasn't what I said. The honorable member did not get the import of my point, and I'm thinking that he could have come on point to seek clarification to what I stated, and for the sake of the record, I stated that due to President Trump's decision to stop funding, there are ongoing projects by the United States aid, U.S. aid, and those include TLM Plus, teaching and learning material support to schools. My last check shows that there are over 48 districts that the United States U.S. aid is present. Those activities will be cancelled because the funding method by the United States government is not going to come. So they are stopping their funding, they are cancelling these programs with the government of Ghana. And that is a statement of fact. It is not anticipating anything. Mr. Speaker, so Order 125 is mute. It doesn't apply in this case. And thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I was concluding. Let me conclude by saying that we will need to look at how we can generate, and I would support government any move, to the extent that it is consistent with the government plan and manifesto, to be able to fill in the funding gap. Because the good people of the North benefit greatly from the United States aid. For instance, the drought support program supports us a lot, especially so when we are engaged in dry season farming or when we are hard hit by drought. So, Mr. Speaker, I want to thank the maker of this statement and to state that government must have to come with a concrete and cogent action plan to fill in the gap and to support the development of the country. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Majority Leadership.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I would like to add my voice in thanking the former finance minister and my brother, the MP for New Jabin North, I believe. Mr. Speaker, I don't think what is happening in the United States should come as any surprise to anyone. We have always known that Trump is an inward-looking president. Donald Trump is anti-globalization president. And we just have sat down and done nothing for a very long time, expecting that the result will be the same. The situation we are in now, and I don't even know why there is a finance minister here. The funding, the donor funding that comes into your budget is very small. It's not much. So I don't know why we're even making, we actually have to find 150 million. And I believe that the finance minister will find it. That is not the problem. The problem is the impact that Trump's policies will have on us. Some are primary effects, some are secondary. Honorable Patrick Boama talked about oil production. That will be it will have a primary impact on us because global prices of oil will go down and therefore we will not be able to get much revenue from the little oil, 120 barrels a day or so, that 1,000 barrels a day that we export. But also, this is a tremendous opportunity for us as a country. Yes, we are not going to, whatever happens in terms of the tariffs or the Paris Agreement or withdrawal of NATO or whatever Trump chooses to do, it's not going to affect us directly, but it will have a secondary impact on us. The remittances, it's not going to be much. I mean, so far we've talked about 150 people being brought back home. That is not going to change, the numbers in terms of the remittances that we get into that country very much. But what is actually going to have impact on us is to do with trade. And at the moment, there's something happening that we need to wake up to. As Honorable Ladi said, this is actually a wake-up call for us. Because a lot of the money that comes into this country, there's 150 million that comes into the budget, and the other ones that goes to various departments and agencies that the Ministry of Finance most of the time don't even know about it. That turns out to be what they call internally generated fund. A lot of these monies are actually being misused. They are not used effectively. And some of the people crying as a result of these free monies, they call it, that comes in and get misused. What we should wake up to now is that because of the tariffs that especially Asian countries, China, are going to be paying, they are beginning to move their productions from Asia, from China, into other countries, especially Africa. A lot of African countries, Rwanda, are benefiting from this. We are here. The headquarters of the African Continental Free Trade sits here. And we are doing very little. So a lot of these companies are basically moving their machines from China and other places to relocate themselves to places where they will pay much lower tariffs. And Africa, we have various agreements with the United States to be able to send things there on low tariffs. A lot of cotton garment businesses are moving. If you go to East Africa at the moment, a lot of garment companies are moving from China to relocate to Rwanda and other places because of the low tariffs on things like AGOA and things that people are able to send. These are the things we need to look at. And I know you don't like to hear 24-hour economy, but 24-hour economy, 24-hour economy is going to be a vehicle. If Ghana, if this government target some of these companies that are relocating to Africa and encourage them with tax incentives and other incentives. Some of them, the raw materials are here. That's why they are relocating. So if we can provide the raw materials, we can give them cheap labor, we can provide sufficient energy and efficient energy, and we can do all the things that will enable these companies to set up here, we can industrialize, or we will become the serious manufacturing economy that we should be. To be able to take advantage. So we should not just be crying of what is going to happen to us because we won't get $150 million to waste, or we won't get monies going into various departments and agencies, but we should look at the opportunities that this creates. As I said, Trump gave us a signal that Donald Trump is not a president that looks at things globally. Is an inward-looking president. You keep hearing America first, America first, and now Ghana is crying that Ghana is last. The man has told us already. So, Mr. Speaker, this is an opportunity for us as a wake-up call to look at things differently and inwardly. And as the president said, that he has charged the finance minister to find this gap, the 150 million or so that we need to find is not a big deal. The finance minister knows that the donor money that comes into our budget is infinitesimal, is very small, and should not shake anyone up. But it's a wake-up call for us to find ways of building our own economy. 8 years ago, we were told that Ghana beyond aid, and today Ghana still hasn't gone beyond aid. Those are the things we need to wake up to and try and address them. Mr. Speaker, with these few words, I thank you.
Thank you very much. Honorable members, it's now 26 minutes after 6. Having regard to Standing Order 56-2, I proceed to adjourn the House till Thursday, 13 February 2025 at 12 noon.